Hello and welcome back to Pirated Radio. I believe this is episode 6. I should really count them before I begin recording these intros, to be honest with you.
It's actually episode 7. He is an idiot. This is George. Please send help.
In this episode, I speak to a gentleman called Jacob Nelson. And to give you a bit of background on this discussion, my university have a system in place where you can sign up for an industry mentor and you get to speak to them sort of periodically over a certain set of time. And I signed up and my one was Jacob. And so we've been working together over the last few weeks. But to sort of give you a brief overview of what we talk about, it stretches from everything from making sure that you've got kind of a vision to go on in your career, the future of design, including things like the sci-fi future that's approaching us and sort of AI and artificial intelligence, which I know might sound a little bit boring. I promise you it isn't. It's quite long, this one. They seem to be getting longer as I do more of them. But yeah, I hope you enjoy. Also, on another note, I'm just editing this right now. I've noticed that the audio is quite noisy. Well, it is on my end when I'm editing it. It doesn't actually show me the actual final version, but it's quite noisy on my end when I'm listening to it. So if it is, once it's gone out and it's on sort of all the different platforms, if it is still quite noisy, I am sorry about that. I have tried my best. I've tried to dull things down in Audacity, but it's not really working. So not Audacity, Audition. I think it's Audition. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry about that. I think you can still hear things. It's on his end. He's got some kids. On my end, there was somebody just with seemingly a chainsaw outside, it seems. No, it's not actually a chainsaw. I think it was just an angle grinder or something, but that's why there is some noise in the background. Super sorry about that. George, press play on the thingy, number 6. For the people that are listening that don't necessarily know yourself, can you give them kind of a brief introduction to yourself and what you do and things like that?
Yeah, okay. I guess I would say where to start a little bit. How I would kind of wrap it up is with my sort of, in a sense, who I am a little bit, and my philosophies and beliefs, my visions and missions. That's kind of the deep kind of framework around who I am. But in a professional light, I can give that really quick. It's really brief. I can kind of mention that. Then I can go into sort of the kind of the deeper elements of myself. I think that's what, then we can kind of tie in. We can kind of move into, talking about mission and vision. In regards to my professional career, I've been involved in design and development through either freelance or through working for local or global companies for the past 20 years. And I've been in design development and brand and marketing. I've worked to help create 100 plus project sites, games. I've done various articles and journals, and have helped mentor, teach, and educate 200 plus students and employees, and in various areas such as design, lean UX, lean startup growth, SEO, digital marketing, and so forth. I've won some awards, one major global award. Knowledge in various different areas, such as design for sites, apps, games, brand marketing for sites, apps, games, development, front end, back end management for teams and products and everything I do. Currently, my position is the head of design R&D at Apparence, which is a domestic Japanese company that does web and web internet services and mobile gaming. And at Apparence, the two things I do there is being a design educator and thought leader. And within that, I'm building a design school, and I have a ongoing design education series talking about the future of design. And the other major thing within that I do is being a growth strategist and experience innovator. So I create and implement growth strategies and also create innovative experiences.
To move on to the kind of leveraging off the back of that, as you've been doing all of this work, have you, because we spoke a lot about kind of having a positive effect on the world, we both kind of share that same vision of trying to leave the world a better place than it was when we got here, so to speak. So has that been something that's kind of been sown through your work that you've always had from sort of a younger age, or is it something that you've developed more as you've gotten into the industry a little bit more?
I think it's been interesting. I think life's a journey, and sometimes you're on the right path, sometimes you're not on the path, and I think everybody knows when they're on the right frequency of their journey. Everybody's on their journey, right? And the journey can go forwards, backwards, left and right, but it's about knowing if you're on the right frequency. So I think that at different stages of my life, I've felt like I was on the right frequency, and when I was in the right frequency, I knew that what I was doing was is the right path, is the right thing to do. So in the beginning, in my early years, when I was I guess maybe 10, 11, 12, 13, like the early stages of my life, I was always sort of introspective and thought about deep existential questions and life, So I always knew that, that life itself wasn't about these material things. It wasn't about, this pop bottle, or, some glasses, like the objects, right? Like just like material things. It wasn't about accumulating that stuff, Denzel Washington actually has a really cool phrase. I wish I could steal it. It's so good. He says, "You'll never find a U-Haul behind a hearse." Think about that. You'll never find a U-Haul behind a hearse. You can't take what you accumulate to the grave. You can't take you can't take it wherever you're going. That this journey ends here, and then something else happens, whatever it is. But so it's sort of like focusing on the material things is it can bring some happiness, some joy, but ultimately, there is something deeper, and I've always known that. Not to go into too much detail about my personal life, childhood, but I helped raise my younger brothers who have one has Down syndrome, one has more of a severe disability, and that helped me understand people and create a greater sense of compassion and understanding about life and the deeper meaning of this reality that we're living in. And that was when I was on that frequency and knew that, okay, life is deeper than what I see here. There's something deeper and something more important, and that is giving back, having compassion. At some point, when we start talking about the philosophy, and my philosophy, vision, and mission, and the importance of that, I can kind of tap into more about why it's really important for all of humanity to have a greater sense of compassion. I think within the next 30, 40 years, because I think if we don't, there's a high probability that then definitely within the next 100 years, we could kill ourselves. And then, so I'm trying to help prevent that.
So yeah, just I guess to kind of leverage off of the back of what you mentioned at the end there, we may as well move into the kind of stuff that we've been doing with each other, kind of. And I've just got, I don't know how necessary to phrase this, but I've just wrote down what you put, the importance of having a vision, but I'm trying to think of a way to phrase it into a kind of a leading question. So we've kind of worked on, I came to you with a set of goals that I've got in my career, and you kind of helped me streamline them in a way and make them more concise and more achievable, and put them in a kind of a wireframe where I can look at them in certain ways and group them together and all different things like that, which has really helped me kind of focus on different things like that. So I guess the stuff that we've been doing, are they kind of systems that you've built yourself, the kind of the thinking behind it all, or are they things that you've kind of taken from other people, or how have you gone about developing the kind of the system that we've worked together on?
Yeah, I would say it's a ongoing work in progress. Everything's in a constant flux. This universe is in flux. Life is in flux. Processes are in flux. Everything I do, everything we all do is in flux. And, it's to say that it's always the same is sort of incorrect. I like to tailor things to people and individuals to situations and contexts, right? So I look at the context of whatever we're in, and that includes who I'm working with, and I help create something that's a little custom to a certain degree. I don't think that everything has to be necessarily completely custom or completely templated. But there should be a mix of both, right? Because there's pros and cons to both, So if I use just a template on everybody, then it would be hit and miss, right? It's kind of like it's like the traditional like schooling, right? Why is everybody falling through? Why do only certain types of people do well in school? I was a horrible student. I never did well. It wasn't until I was at the university at that level is that's when I really excelled. But it was different, right? And everybody's different, and you have to understand what works for them. So when I help somebody create their vision and mission, the tools and things that I use will really depend on what problems they have. Like, for instance, when you were talking about like, you already had a list of goals and you've already thought about it. Okay, so I would probably be using something to help extract a tool to help extract information from that list, rather than how do we start creating the list altogether. So you're already at a different stage. So I would be using different tools and processes. But not only that, the way I even speak to people, will also change too. Because when you talk about something very sensitive like visions, like somebody's vision or mission, you don't want to make them feel like it sucks or it's not very good or it's not right somehow, right? No, like you want to make sure that they feel empowered while they're talking about it, because that's the only way you're going to progress to help them get to where they need to go. So for example, if you're speaking to somebody that is sort of very straightforward, I guess you can sort of take the stance in the conversation and kind of just cut to the chase. But if somebody is having a hard time and you're trying to pressure them to just what is it, or like you're just trying to force them into a certain path, then they're going to be reluctant to come forth with their true feelings. So it depends. Everything depends. The way I speak to somebody, the processes I use, the tools, it'll adapt to the problem at hand and understand the context that we're in.
So a lot of the work we've been doing has been focusing on kind of setting a specific vision to look for. And I guess I wanted to ask, why do you think it's an important thing to do to set, an end goal to get to, so to speak?
Yeah.
Was that worded poorly? I
can answer this no, it's okay. I can answer this in various ways. And I think, if you don't mind, I'll kind of, I'll take you through a little bit of a journey about vision and mission and sort of these and beliefs and this sort of deep look at why these are important, and then I'll speak about what mine is. But also while I'm doing that, I want you to also, you and everybody else, to listen to see how it's all integrated, and then as I say it, I will also kind of point out how I came upon these things as well, and because you'll go, Wilson, how do you create it? How did you even come up with that idea? Or like for you, like where was that spark for you? And I can kind of give you a director's cut, on how I came up with these different things, as I go through what they are, that'll give you some insight to understand the things I was doing to actually kind of look inside myself, the introspective look inside myself to see how I can create my own vision and mission. Because if you're starting from zero, and this will help you. If you already have a head start and you already sort of know the direction, right? Then you're at a different stage, and then of course, you would need a different tool process. But my story right now will help you help people at a base level to understand how they can even start thinking about visions and missions and why they're important. And so I guess I'll start from there. Okay. So for the philosophy of my personal philosophy, and philosophy comes before vision and mission. So philosophy is all about the way you think and, in a sense, your beliefs. And for me, I feel that it's all about alignment. When your thoughts, feelings, and actions are aligned and repeated, your vision will become reality. And when your vision is a healthy vision, it's positive, you and your world will change for the better. And a change in yourself will cause a change in your environment. Value is then added to yourself and the environment. And a change in the environment will then cause a change in others. And then value is added to the environment and others. And this will be a positive ripple, which will continue. And then the impossible is then made possible. And that's when dreams become reality. That's my deep sort of philosophy. Now, the director's cut on that, on how this came to be, was I noticed that everything that good happened in my life, like I said before, like it's about being on the frequency. When I was not in tune with the frequency, I wasn't on the right path, and I was going backwards somehow. I feel like I was going backwards. Okay, well, the little side note here: going backwards does not always mean you're out of frequency, because sometimes failing or going, in a sense, you feel like you're going backwards, you're not making progress, actually is making progress. So there is a difference between failing, even if small or big, and going back and feeling like you're going backwards, could actually be going forwards compared to actually going backwards. Now, to understand the difference between the two is that if you're failing constantly and like repeatedly, and it's not helping at all, because then it's not progress, because good failure means that you're learning from this failure, and then you're taking the learnings from it, and then you're changing something, you're tweaking it, and then you're trying it again, a new approach, and then it'll get better a little bit. You can fail again, but you're still getting a little bit of an increase. So that's when you know the failure is a good failure, because you're still moving forward a little bit. So in a sense, you're falling forward instead of falling backwards. But if things are not helping you, and you feel like your life and the people around you, everything around you is getting worse, and in a sense, you're tanking, you're spiraling down, right? And they can happen very easily, right? You lose your job, you lose, who knows, wife, kids, all these things. Everything starts going down, and maybe you start drinking. Who knows? You're just spiraling down. Then you sort of see that you're out of the frequency, out of alignment. And I noticed that when I was in alignment with what I thought, what the thoughts I had, the ideas in my head, and the feelings associated with those thoughts. I was thinking of something, and I'd feel it, and when I would actually follow through and actually do it, and I kept doing it, things would actually happen. Good things would happen if it was a healthy, positive vision idea that I had, right? It can also manifest things that are really bad for you too, right? If you think you suck, if you think you're a bad person, right? Those thoughts, that's what you think, and you feel that way, you feel miserable, you feel depressed, and you do actions that are aligned with that, like you drink and you just eat poorly, bad habits all around, right? So you have the thoughts, feelings, actions that are bad, all aligned, all doing the same thing and repeated, you're spiraling down. But if you just reverse that and you have good thoughts, feelings, and actions, you're spiraling up. So for me, it was all about noticing that deeper patterns in my life. And that's where I based my philosophy around that, which was noticing the deeper me and what was happening, the Jacob throughout history, what was happening, and I looked at that as a whole, that whole mapping of me throughout time, and I said, okay, well, what's really going on here? Well, I started looking at analyzing. I realized, okay, it was really thoughts, feelings, actions, and the alignment, and that was my base philosophy. Now, based on a base philosophy or thinking about stuff, you can start seeing how that is a foundation for understanding that you can do things to increase. So for me, for example, it was like, okay, so how did a vision and a mission come out of that? Well, if I want to spiral up and not down, I need something that'll help me spiral up. And it was, well, I want to be a better person. I want to be a better me, spiral up. So I was like, okay, well, I definitely know that part of my vision is to be a better me, right? The spiral up, not spiral down. So better me is part of core to what I want to do. I want to be a better version of myself. But then I kept thinking about that. And I go, well, being a better version of myself is not only about me, it's about others as well, right? I want others to, so being a better version of myself also means having others be a better version of themselves, raising everybody up around you as well, right? When you make it, you don't just take off and run into the sunset. When you make it big or do anything, you put your hand behind you and you pull somebody else up, right? So that was part of being a better version of myself, right? The better me would reach back and pull somebody else up and not just run off. So I want to spiral up and then bring everybody else up with me in that vortex. And so that was the vision, which is so my vision is well, I guess so. In a sense, it's to help everybody become aligned. Is sort of goes back to the philosophy. So I want your thoughts, your feelings, and actions to align. And one of the ways I can help people become aligned, which is the foundation of progress towards a better self, is by helping them create a life and or career vision and mission, and which will empower them throughout their life. So empowering people to have a mission and vision is part of my mission to reach my vision. So my vision is to become a better me and a better we for a better future today, right? And then to get there, the mission is to empower every person on this planet and the next to dream big, live now, and inspire change. So I can see it's all sort of integrated, but it all stems from this sort of base philosophy and thinking about who I am and what I'm doing. And that's something where you have to kind of analyze the larger patterns in your life and notice, what have you been doing? What's pulling you in the direction towards alignment, and understand why you like it and why is this a good thing for you. And everybody else and everybody knows in hindsight when it was good. When things are good, they're sort of invisible. But it's usually when you're out of alignment, when you go, oh, wow, I don't have it anymore, but that was really good. I want to get back into alignment. Because when you're in perfect alignment, you're in this sort of flow, and you don't even realize that you're happy, and time just zaps by, right? So if you're out of alignment, it'll be even easy for you right now, possibly, to look back and say, okay, I'm out of alignment. I want to get back in alignment and have a vision and mission. Think back to when you were extremely happy and where your life was in the right frequency and you felt very aligned. Think about the factors, the context of that situation and time in your life, and understand and to see why that was you making progress and being a better version of yourself, and where you were going and why were you happy. And that'll help you understand a little more about your base beliefs and feelings, because at that time your beliefs were aligned with your actions, right? Your thoughts, feelings, and actions, and what you thought and believed, they were all in alignment, and that's why you felt great. But when you're out of alignment, then you spiral down, and without a vision and mission, it can be very hard to get back out of it, right? So if you have a vision and mission and you spiral down a little bit, at least you know how to get back on track, right? You do, well, okay, to get back into frequency, I go back to the vision and mission that I was working on, and I push on it, and then you'll be back into alignment. Why? Because that vision and mission was deeply integrated and aligned with the very fabric of who you are, and I think that's really key. So definitely have a vision and mission if you want to be aligned.
Just to take it back a little bit, and I know I keep shooting off from the questions that we already had, but you mentioned having good goals. Do you have any sort of measuring sticks to be able to test if a goal is good? Like, I guess, do you mean, when you say good, do you mean a kind of morally good, or is it kind of like good as in achievable, or what kind of measuring stick do you put that up against to say a goal is good, so to speak?
In terms of goals, I think goals are very important. I think, there's a classic saying about goals, which is about a ship without a destination will sink, right? So a destination is a goal. So you're the ship, and if you're not, they say, oh, this kid's aimless, he's not going anywhere. Well, yeah, if you're not going anywhere, there's no destination. You are, in a sense, not in control of your life. The world is in control of your life, right? So if you have no vision and no mission, if you don't know where you're going, in a sense, right, a goal is a vision is a goal. A goal may not be a vision, right? So a vision is a huge like end game goal. It's a big one, the big dream, the big thing. You can have small goals too, but it's important to have that destination so you know where you're headed, so that you're in more control of your life. If you don't have that vision, you don't know where you're going, the world's going to program you. You're not going to program yourself. It's going to program you. You'll be subject to everything around you, your friends, family, the environment. Everything will try to mold you into something. And you won't even realize how you're being molded, because you're it's like you're in a bath and you don't even realize that it's permeating your body. You think that you're separate from the water, right? When you're in the bath, it's getting in your skin. I'm sure what if the bath wasn't water, but the bath was some chemical? Do you think you're not going to get affected by that? No, it's going to be in you, right? It's going to be permeating your body. So you really need to make sure that you have that vision, and well, of course, you have the mission to actually reach the vision, but you definitely need to have that vision so that you have direction and so that you're programming yourself. I think if I can recall this quote, it's from Sadhguru, who is a famous mystic and a wise man from India, and he basically, in a nutshell, this is not a direct quote, but this is a paraphrase, and saying, in a sense, that people say, what's the difference between destiny and fate? And, well, fate is when you are not in control of your destiny, right? It's a failed destiny is fate, meaning fate is the world programming you. It's when you fail to program yourself. When you have your own vision and mission and program yourself, then you have a destiny. Then you're inventing the future. You're creating your own life. You're creating things around you. You're creating your future, that vision. You're making it a reality. That's a destiny. So you can create the destiny. But when you don't do that, when you do no action at all, no steps at all, and you just let the world decide for you everything, then that's fate. And the fate is in the world's hands, So I guess that's a little side note on that. And another thing about goals and visions is that I say, a vision without a plan is blind, right? So you have, in a sense, that plan is a mission with a roadmap is what a plan is. So you have to have a vision, know where you're going, and know how to get there. That's the mission and roadmap, because just a mission itself does not actually get you to the vision. So a vision is a destination. A mission is the daily work required to get to the vision, the activities, the work. But what steps of the activities, right? Like, like what sort of process are these activities in, and what's the roadmap? So you have to have that roadmap, right? You have to have that chart, mapped out chart to reach that destination.
We've talked a number of times about kind of the future of the industry and kind of some more of the moral questions that go into it. And I personally, I think as more younger people go into sort of more prominent positions in kind of the design world and more in the world in general, I think that we'll begin measuring someone's worth on how much good they've done for the world, sort of, how many good causes they've done work for, as opposed to how much money they've made or how many, how famous they are, things like that. Would you agree with that as an analysis, I guess, to begin with?
Can you restate that? Sorry, I want to kind of make sure I understand this.
So I think going forward, because at the moment, awards and things like that, they're normally measured on your client. Like if you were to say somebody that's had a successful career, you normally measure that on how much money they've made, their client list, how long their career's been, things like that. And I think going forward, in the next 5 to 10 years, we'll begin to see a bit of a shift where people will, those type of things will fall to the wayside for the idea of just people doing good work for the world and good work for good causes. And I guess, do you think that, do you kind of echo that thought, or is it, do you see it in a different way? Or
yeah, I think there's a lot to be said about this area. I think it also reflects what we're sort of seeing right now in terms of the change in the mindset of society in the world. And this is one thing, but there's many things we can talk about in a second about the world turning more green and the world going to moving towards long-term thinking. But it's all sort of wrapped up into that idea of understanding what value really is and what success is. And I think that a lot of people misconstrue what value is. I guess in a sense, value is a pretty broad word. Anything can have value, right? To a certain degree. But the value that we're talking about is the value that you can't put a number to, right? You can't quantify it. It's a quality, not a quantity. And I think the world we used to live in was the value was quantified. It had a number, like you said, the number of years in your career, the number, the clients, the top number of Fortune 500 clients you had, and so forth. There's these numbers to it, right? And this is something that we can talk about later also, which is something that I'm trying to do, which is, and as far as design, that I'm trying to educate the world on the future of design in many ways, but in particular, right now, I'm trying to push PX, which is player experience, which comes from gaming, actually. And one of the thoughts, one of the pillars within player experience is really understanding value. Which comes from serious fun. There's 4 types of fun, and one of them is serious fun. And within serious fun, it's about value, about generating value. And this value is a quality when you're having fun, when you're enjoying something. And in gaming, this is sort of an analogy to kind of help you understand how this transition of the world is happening. For example, in games, when you place a number somewhere, and you make that a focus. Let's say you have a dashboard, you have a number, maybe the number of kills, the number of points, the badges, all these different things. And if you have a number there, people will think it's a game and they will try to increase the number. If it actually is a mobile game or a console game or so forth, then it's sort of harmless. It's just a game. But what happens when you have these numbers in real life? For example, modern day social media. What do we see in terms of the dashboard for Twitter and other applications? We see numbers as the main thing, right? We see followers, we see likes, we see, followers, likes, any other interactions. These are all just numbers that people see and try to hack or beat and try to cheat because they think it's a game. So they try to get a bot. They try to hire somebody. They do anything they can to have more numbers, more points than somebody else. And this thinking, right? These are just applications, but that stems from a larger sort of thinking about the world. And that's the old world we used to come in, right? That we're coming from, which is, how do we have more numbers, more points than somebody? Because that means we're better, we have more value. But it's really false value. It's superficial value, right? It's short-term thinking. You're just trying to beat the game. And the world is going from trying to beat the game to trying to actually have real value. And real value means that if you do have numbers, the numbers are sort of for yourself, for self-reference, just to kind of track your progress. But it's not something you try to highlight to show to other people, to say that you're better than them. Because what you're trying to do is create a healthier environment, a better you, and a better world. So focusing on points is not going to make things better. It's going to make it, in a sense, more destructive, because people will try to hack it and beat it because they'll think it's a game. So we're moving towards value that's a quality rather than a quantity.
Just to kind of bridge on the back of that, because you mentioned kind of social media and things like that. Do you see social media as a negative thing, as a positive thing? If it is a negative thing, do you have any ideas on how to maybe make it better or things like that?
I also think that's an interesting topic as well, because social media, like,
have you watched the? I'm sorry to cut in. Have you watched The Social Dilemma on Netflix at all?
No, I haven't.
It's very, very good. It mentioned how it's kind of what you were saying. Do you know on the Facebook app where you can kind of pull down and it like goes it like kind of it pings back up. It's designed purposely like a slot machine, so it feeds that endorphin in your head and things like that, just as kind of a touch point. So I think it's already built in, that gaming kind of thing. It's kind of sewn into the DNA of different apps like that to kind of get you on it more and get you addicted to it a little bit more.
That's absolutely right. Modern day applications and tools, when you come from a world where your value's on quantity and not quality, then you'll do anything to increase these numbers. And it's not only for the users that are trying to increase the numbers, like followers, but it's also the business that just thinks of you as a number, and they think, well, how do we increase more users? How do we increase their time per session? How do we increase the different interactions with the tool? And then it becomes a numbers game rather than thinking about the quality of the value. Just because you can tweak or add a feature in a tool that allows you to connect to more people doesn't mean that's a good thing, right? Having 10,000 friends on Facebook doesn't mean they're good friends, right? It just means that you have more of these so-called friends. So it's a focus on increasing the quantity rather than the quality. And in that thinking, in that game, sort of I call it poor gamification, which is point thinking, that focuses the thinking on a design that is streamlined for addiction rather than streamlined for empowerment. Like I said, you interact with something and like you get a like from somebody, and then you get that endorphin rush. That is engineered. Things are designed for you to feel a certain way and to be part of that numbers game of getting more points. I do this, I feel this, I feel good, so I want to get more points so that I feel better. It's like a slot machine, like I said, right? Like you just want more points so you feel good, but it's not really doing anything, right? You're running in place, and you sort of feel good, and as you keep running in place, and as you keep getting charged from this thing, the more you do it, the more that circuit is being lit up in your brain, and pretty soon you're at their beck and call to whatever they want. Like they can, in a sense, make a new change to a feature. And if you're already addicted, you're probably going to go along with it and use it because they have you now. They have you in the palm of their hand.
when we were emailing each other and we're discussing topics to talk about, one of the things you mentioned was greener design. So do you want to touch on that a little bit more?
As we've already talked about a little bit, the world is changing, right? I think it's finally for the better a little bit. And I think the whole world was blinded by the value of quantity rather than quality. And finally, like I mentioned before, you don't notice when things are you don't really notice how bad it is until you kind of move on to something else. Because once you're doing anything, you sort of don't have enough perspective to see how good or bad it really is. But once you're sort of out of it, you go, oh, that was really good, or that was really bad, in hindsight. And as we sort of move towards this new world value, we sort of start to realize that our thinking was really backwards, that our values are very superficial. Everything was short term. We weren't long term. And now, as we move towards this long term thinking future, one of the things we'll be focusing on is this greener world, a greener design. What that means is it's a renewable world, a sustainable, eco-friendly world. To give you some kind of background on this, according to research performed by Stanford University, we can make the switch to a fully sustainable global energy landscape by 2050. So Stanford collected and analyzed 47 peer-reviewed papers on energy requirements for various situations and geographies to determine the feasibility of countries and regions to make the switch to renewable energy. And this is interesting, they found that it was entirely possible for them to make the shift. They found that we could do it. And for electricity, transport, building heating and cooling, all this stuff that we need can be supplied reliably and with almost 100% renewable energy. So we now know that we can do it. It's something that's feasible. The world can be green. It can go green. Before, I don't know. Maybe we could, maybe we couldn't. But we do know now that we can. By 2050, if we pushed on it, we could have a greener world. And one of the things that would be that they're thinking of could be a multi-nation renewable supergrid. Many nations coming together, working together to create big green grids. Utilizing different technologies and energies, things such as wind and solar power. And as we move towards this greener world, we'll be moving away from oil. So towards the green, away from the black. I think we'll still have oil to a certain degree. It's not gonna disappear, but we'll definitely be getting greener. So in the future, we'll have energy, from, of course, natural gas still, coal, nuclear, but definitely see a huge increase in renewables, wind, solar, hydroelectric. And what I'm really excited about is the crazy future technology for renewables, things that we haven't even thought of yet, things such as harnessing the power and energy generated from earthquakes, tsunamis, hurricanes, tornadoes, and pretty much any other phenomena. If we can harness that, then we can have really nice, clean, renewable energy, right? Because there's somewhere in the world there's always some kind of disaster or phenomena happening, but if you could just funnel it, right? Because this whole world is a living thing, right? In a sense, it's kind of like the Matrix. It's like, what if you could? It's like you're basically a battery. What if you could take the energy that you have and then use it and put it in a device and use your own energy in your body to power your cell phone, right? It's kind of like that. It's like using the planet. It's like using the planet's energy itself to power itself, or power other things inside of it. So I think that's an interesting thing. And so with that thinking of that future, that green future, and the technologies we're talking about, that definitely affects design. Because it's designed with the world in mind, not just trying to increase these numbers and points, the short-term thinking. You're thinking about something larger than yourself and larger than even our species. You're talking about the world, everything in this world. You're talking about thinking about the world as a life form and as a large ecosystem. So this is an increased focus on empathy for our planet and ecosystems, not just other humans. So right now we have human-centered design, and human-centered design will be replaced with something. There's no name for it yet, but I believe it could be something called possibly a planet-centered design, green-centered design, or maybe even eco-centered design. So we went from machine-centered design 30, 40, 50 years ago, which was humans adapt to machines. And then we went to user-centered design in the mid to late 90s. And that was machines adapt to its users. And then human-centered design, and from like 2010 onward to now, we've had human-centered design, which is systems are designed for humans, not really users. We don't call them users. It's much more personal now. It's for humans, designed for humans. But then in the future, moving towards the future, we'll be going into this greener design, this eco-friendly design, which is eco-centered design, which I like to call it. It could also be called planet-centered design, but eco-centered design is about these are systems that are designed with the planet and ecosystems in mind, and not just humans. So as you can see, we went from humans adapt to machines, machines adapt to its users, systems are designed for humans, not users. Then systems are designed with the planet and ecosystems in mind, not humans. Not just humans, right? Designing for everything. I can imagine designing things to extract not just energy, but work from other animals. What if? I'm just thinking out of the box here, right? You've seen crows and they can do things, right? Like, what if things engineered around you to where the natural life around you was operating on something that was already pre-designed, so whatever that they're doing is helping them and helping us, right? I'm not even sure what that would be, right? But in a sense, understanding how to extract and integrate everything that we do, our actions with the environment, to sustain and create and create a more renewable planet, and in a sense, renewing that waste and actions and integrating that. I think it's going to be really key, So designing for animals too, right? And not just humans.
So I guess kind of jumping off of the back of the kind of the forward thinking kind of discussions, do you have any predictions for what's going to come next for us, where things are going to go, things like that?
Yeah. Now, moving up from that base level thinking, that about the value, the shift in value, right? So we know that we're now moving towards from quantity value to quality value, which means a shift in from short to long term thinking, from instant to delayed gratification, from a less green to a greener world, and along with that, in order to make that possible, we need one of the things that we'll need are technologies that can scale. And I think it's really interesting, actually, that the technologies that we need to solve our problem come at the exact time we need it. Because if we were trying to do these things, 20, 30 years ago, it would be very difficult to scale some of this stuff. But you think, well, by scaling, how does that work? What technologies are going to help scale us to be greener, faster, and upgrade things in this world faster, make it better, faster? And there are many things. Things like quantum computing, DLT technologies. That means things like blockchain and hash graph and so forth. In a sense, the 2030 IoT future that we're moving towards, this all connected, all digital future, allows for things to scale. Because, for example, if you had a energy grid that was using some sort of blockchain or hash graph technology, then you would be able to sell your own power back to a, main grid and get paid back fast. That's immediately. right? Because you're not dealing, in a sense, with normal currency anymore. You're dealing with some sort of a digital currency where the system can pay you back immediately, right? So, for example, if imagine you're homeless and you have a backpack. You're homeless and all you have is a backpack. But what if you had that backpack it was covered in these sort of solar cells, and you'd be outside all day because you're outside all day, and it's charging, and you can use that charge from your backpack maybe to power your phone and other things on you. But you can also sell power back to the grid, and they would pay you for that power, that solar power, right? So you can sort of seeing how it's creating opportunities. These things are scaling, right? What if everybody had a backpack? Everybody's selling things back, right? So that's how it scales. But that's just one type of thing. What if everything could have a solar cell on it and capture the sun's energy and then send it back to the grid and get paid for it? Then that's also so you're scaling solar power and solar energy back to the grid. But that's just one thing. So these technologies are allowing us for scale, not just to integrate, but it's the scale of things is important, right? If you think back to when the internet was just starting out in the 90s, we sort of had some scale, I guess, right? But the applications weren't really there to help. You didn't have millions and millions of users on one tool, whereas now you have billions of people on these apps, and because things scale, the technology is there for us to scale, and the impact is greater. Same thing here. We're going to have these technologies that are just going to help us scale whatever we're trying to do much faster. And if we're trying to go green faster, it's going to help us scale that. One of the cool things that I think that's going to come out, especially it's really important for me, to me, is imagination and dream recorders. I think that's something that's going to be probably the most important, I want to say discovery, I guess, invention of this century. Because I'm not going to say forever because these things could come after this, but I'm saying definitely I think this century. I think things like we're also going to have telepathy machines, and that'll also be from Neuralink and or others, but also imagination and dream recorders. I think that's going to be the most important for this century, is because we have to upgrade our BIOS, the mind, which I think I call the mind the BIOS basically, and the hardware and software has been something that we've been working on, in a sense, developing and evolving in this old world that we lived in. But moving forward, we have to upgrade this BIOS, because the BIOS is something that if you change, it's a fundamental thing that if you change, your actions, your beliefs, everything changes, right? As we all know, if you want to see the change in the world, right, you have to become the change that you want to see in the world. You have to do it yourself. You can't change others. You have to change yourself. Do you think a new tool is going to change people? Do you think any new app is going to change somebody? No, they have to change themselves. So we know it's not the hardware, it's not the software that matters. That's not where change comes from. It's not how you get things done, at a scale that we want, right? And the speed that we want. If you want people to be better versions of themselves faster, you want the world to be greener faster, one great way is to, in a sense, download empathy, download compassion. And that means the mind. So imagination and dream recorders will allow us to see what's going on in the mind. You can see it on a screen, but also allow you to, at some point, download the information back into the brain. So you'll be able to experience what it's like to be disabled, or to, not have any money, but also experience what it's like to be filthy rich, or to have no disabilities, right? So you can go in reverse, you can go in either way, but you get to actually, we say, try to experience what it's like to be in somebody else's shoes, but this way you can actually literally do it. You're actually going to be able to relive that. You're going to live their dreams and their thoughts and their feelings. So you're going to download that mapping into your brain, and you'll actually be able to relive that. I think that's important to help upgrade the BIOS, because if you want, the fastest way to change yourself is to download a new self, right? I mean, you can And so downloading these new memories, these new thoughts, these new feelings is a good way to start changing your beliefs. And I think that it's going to be a tricky world, right? Because what if you download something that, you didn't want to believe? Now it's downloaded, right? I mean, it's a whole new frontier. We don't even know what's going to happen. But I think if you execute it right, it's a good thing. And yeah, we'll definitely have a healthier, greener world. And also healthier people as well. So a little more on that is, so our technology right now is advancing faster than our values. I think that's a good way of putting it. So right now we are irresponsible children inventing and playing with immensely powerful technology. And I think that if we don't increase our compassion, understanding, and have a multitude of other values, we won't survive. I think humans are very beautiful, like everything else, and I don't want to let our beauty die. I want our beauty, this beauty of our thoughts, this human experience, to be shared with the universe. I want to add value to not just yourself, but others. But I think even larger than that. Dream even bigger. Add value to the universe, and ultimately, I want a better future today. And things such as the Imagination and Dream Recorder will be a catalyst for the change from within. It will enable you to become the change you wish to see in the world, in your dreams and from your dreams to reality. So you can just download this stuff, download compassion, download better values, download a better you. Then this will inspire change, and we can experience a better future today.
To kind of, I guess, leverage off of the back of that, the way you're talking about the future almost seems a little bit kind of cyberpunk, Black Mirror, kind of almost Terminator kind of thing, So I guess in terms of, can you see that becoming a thing, and how do we combat kind of AI taking positions that I guess we want to keep as humans? And do you think maybe AI will get to a point where it can, it can understand emotion, it can do all things like that? Can robots, can we get to a point where computers can make, the Mona Lisa every week and things like that, I guess?
So there's a few things I want to kind of touch on with this. One is, is this a good thing or a bad thing? Is this going to doom us? Is this going to help us? And also, what does this really mean? Like, what are we really talking about when we say intelligence, right? I think that's a key word that we'll kind of touch on a little bit, because that's sort of like the defining word when we say intelligence. Is intelligence, is that something that's only relegated to the humans? Can anything else have intelligence? It's like we say, yeah, human intelligence versus artificial intelligence, but what do you mean by intelligence? That's the thing, because everything has intelligence. And I don't think human intelligence is something that may not be just human. I think other things could have human type intelligence, if like other creatures out there in the universe would have, it's perception is part of it, but I think intelligence is multifaceted in terms of how it's comprised. There are many different types of intelligence. And for example, there's, like in school, we classically think that there's just, in a sense, we kind of praise two different kinds. When you're either like, we know that in schools there's the arts side, the kind of the arts intelligence, right? And then you have, it's arts, language, literature, it's that side. And then you have the sort of the science side, right? It's like science and non-science. And that's really just chopping intelligence down to like two different categories. And there's much more going on than two different categories of stuff, right? And out of those two categories, we usually say that the sciences are better, right? Oh, that's if you have a science degree, if you have some kind of career in science, then you're really smart. But we don't value the other types of intelligence out there. And that's really got us into trouble, I think, is by, the educational system and what we focus on has really, you can see how it's changed everything. That by thinking that the one type of intelligence, which is that frontal lobe intelligence, which is the consciously aware you, the you that makes decisions, the you that tries to calculate, the you that tries to do things, the one that you call yourself by your first name, that ego you, that intelligence is just a tool, and it's one type of intelligence, but it's not everything, right? There's so many other types of intelligence out there that are happening without you doing anything, right? You think that you can do all these things and you're so smart with that, frontal lobe intelligence, that with that science degree, whatever it is, but that's just like a fraction of the intelligence that's occurring and happening within your body. Like if I asked you, how are you beating your heart right now? Right? How are you regenerating your cells in your cells in your body right now? How are you doing that? It's an intelligence that's happening right now. You can't explain it, but it's happening, And would you say that it's an intelligence and that's pretty advanced intelligence? I would think so, because you can't do it. You can't just think and go, okay, cells regenerate and do it. We could barely open a pop bottle, a water bottle. Talk about intelligence. We're not that smart. And I think we have to, as we move towards this future of value, we will start to see that we'll be more humble and more grateful for the things that are actually happening around us as we move towards this quality of life, and see that intelligence is something that's not just strictly the domain of humans. We don't have the rights to all intelligence in this universe, and there's just so much going. And then once you start extracting this intelligence, we'll start to sort of understand that it's the fabric of everything. It's not about separating things. It's about integrating things. That's something that we've seen with, the world moving towards inclusion, right? And integrating and including things. And that's good, because it shows that everything's an ecosystem. And so rather than segregating AI and machines and humans, we should integrate them, right? Everything should be integrated. And we all sort of share this sort of intelligence, whether you call it machine or human or not. I definitely think that's to some degree we'll be able to experience machine intelligence, and machines will be able to experience human intelligence. One way, I believe, would be things such as, like, once we have things like the imagination and dream recorders, things like that, once you're able to not only see it, but download information into your brain, you will be able to control certain parts of your brain and in a sense, a mapping that will allow you to have a certain catered or tailored experience that will allow you to, in a sense, experience what it's like to be not only other humans, but be a machine. I'm not sure. We don't know. Maybe the machines. Maybe go. Well, what does that feel like? I don't know. Maybe ask the AI what it feels like to be a machine, and then you can download it from them, right? I don't know, but that would be one way, right? I mean, there's smart AI machines. They can tell you, well, I feel this way. Do you want to feel this way? Okay, you have zero. This, zero, this, plus this, and they'll just download it to you, and then you feel like you're that. And you go, wow, that's an interesting experience. I feel very different, I'm not saying good or bad, but you feel very different. You definitely don't feel human, right? But I don't know if that would be some of the purest form, because, you're still biological, but I mean, we don't really know. We're sort of playing, we're sort of experimenting and learning and evolving in this area. But definitely, I think we'll move towards a point where you can be able to have these certain types of experiences. And I even think that, we already have the capability right now, in a sense, to experience things that are sort of outside yourself. And one thing is that we know is from dreams. For example, when you're dreaming, and you let's say you're dreaming that you see your mother, your father, and you're talking to them about something, whatever, right? While you're talking to them, you don't think that they are not you. You think that they're your mom and your dad at that point in time when you're in that dream. You think that they're separate entities. You think that it's your mom, that's my dad I'm talking to, and I am me, right? But it's not, right? We know that it's all in a dream, so it's all you. But you go, well, how it's all me, then how does it feel like I'm separate from that my mom and dad in a dream? Because your brain, your mind is able to compartmentalize itself. Consciousness or awareness, that high level of awareness, it can compartmentalize itself. And so, it's like this big bowl of water here, and I have one drop. There's in that drop, it's still water. So in a sense, it's like so everything. So consciousness, it's in all of that. It can compartmentalize itself into one piece and still be the whole. So when you can compartmentalize things, like in a dream, it already shows that we can take it one step further and do sort of this artificial compartmentalization by downloading certain mappings that will allow you to experience things that are somewhat outside of your own conscious awareness and states. So you would be able to experience what it's like to be somebody else. Like, what if you downloaded your friend's mind, but it only ran for 10 minutes, and for that 10 minutes, you were not you were him. It was like a live feed. Like, maybe it wasn't even like a downloaded package, but maybe it was just like everything that he does, that he, like, you can close your eyes, everything that he does, it's going to funnel all that information into your head right now, and you're just going to be him for 10 minutes. And see and feel exactly, it's like basically a copy. It's like it's copying everything that he's doing. All that information is being processed in his brain and put into your brain after it's processed. So you feel it all at the same time. Or maybe it's live, who knows? I'm just saying that we're going to be able to do that. Because you can compartmentalize things in the brain, right? Even within dreams, we know that now. We can compartmentalize the mind. So we can possibly compartmentalize non-human experiences.
I guess one thing I did want to ask you as well, to kind of take it a little bit outwards, I guess. You obviously, you're a very, very intelligent man, and you obviously have a very sophisticated way of thinking about things. So I wanted to ask, do you have a way of sort of, when somebody comes to you with a problem, be it in work or, in mentoring or anything like that, do you have a set of rules or systems that you go about tackling a problem with, I guess?
Yeah, completely. I would say, Einstein actually has a quote about, I don't think this quote applies to everything, but I do like it in certain contexts to kind of talk about this quote. He talks about basically, to paraphrase it, if he had to save the world and he only had an hour, he would think about the right question to ask, right? And he would spend 55 minutes doing that and 5 minutes, to actually execute on it, But he basically says, it's more about finding the right question, right? Like, what are we really trying to do? What are you trying to solve? Because the goal is to solve the right problem, right? So, like, have the right solution for the right problem, not just any solution for any problem. And a lot of people try to use either a template or try to just give their own, impose their own beliefs and experiences on the other person and apply it, right? Oh, it worked for me, it'll work for you. So that's how people approach things. I experienced it this way, and I solved it this way, so maybe you're doing the same thing. And it's usually never the case, right? Because everybody else is experiencing a completely different life journey. If things look the same, it's probably only the same on the surface. The moment you ask more, you'll realize that that's connected with a crazy different root system than in yours. It just looks on the surface, it looks the same, but on the bottom, it's completely different. So if you're trying to attack at the surface level, then you're probably not going to get a hit because you're not actually going deep enough to understand exactly what's really happening, because that's how you solve it. You don't solve it up here, you solve it way down here, right? First principles thing, you understand the base level foundation of what's happening, right? Like, so kind of like what I was saying before is like, if you don't save humanity by giving us a better app. You save humanity by upgrading our values and compassion. You upgrade the BIOS itself, and then everything that we do will be better, right? You go at the very bottom layer. And so you have to do the same thing when you attack problems, which mainly means just listening. Listen to everybody and honestly listen to what they're saying, and don't interrupt them, and just listen. Because that's the only way you can get enough information to actually formulate the right question that you need to ask so that you can actually come up with solutions. So you do a lot of listening, do a lot of different types of research that mean gathering information and research, and then you synthesize that research you synthesize all the data points from that research, from listening and other types of things like observation of the behavior and different types of things of getting that data from that problem, a person talking about their problems, and then you synthesize it with different tools. Depending on the size of the problem, it can be very easy or more complex. A way of extracting the insights from that data set. Once you do that, once you have enough insights, then you can start to piece together the insights to understand what question are we really trying to do? Like, what is the problem? And that'll help you arrive at the right problem. And what it usually means is that you arrive at the problem question, or the thing they're trying to tackle. That question is usually something that the person who has a problem is not even aware of, because if they were aware of it, they would have already started working on solutions. That's why they're probably coming to you for advice on what do I do, or maybe they're not doing anything at all because they don't even know what the problem is, because they haven't done their own research into themselves to understand what's really happening and analyze it to pull out the insights to actually to create the right problem question, so that you can start then ideating and coming up with solutions for it. So, in a sense, in a nutshell, you just do a lot of listening and a lot of observing, and have empathy while you do that to really understand, well, what are they thinking, saying, doing, feeling, and you're trying to become them as much as possible. You're trying to become the problem as much as possible, so that you can extract the insights better, right? And when problems for yourself, it's much easier to solve it. Not always, but usually easier to solve your own problems than somebody else's, right? Because you know yourself better than them, because you have insight into your own data set better than their data set. And so, since they're not you really have to work hard to understand, listen to them, what is really going on, and have to have empathy and become that problem that they have. That's not you. Become their problem, so that you can experience their problem and feel their pain. And then at that point, then you're sort of a domain expert in their problem. And then you can pull out the right question and say, okay, here are the different insights, and these insights are pointing to this question, like how do you do or how should we do this, or how do I do this, or and then once you have that, then you can start ideating and coming up with solutions and things, and that's a whole different that's sort of the solution phase of things. But in the beginning, you're just sort of trying to figure out what the problem space and getting insights from it.
Yeah, there's in a sort of similar vein, there's a brand designer called Brian Collins who owns a company called Collins, and he calls it the hidden dragon. So normally when a company comes to him and they'll say, we need a new logo because of such and such a reason, normally he'll say that isn't the reason. The one that they're telling him directly it's never the reason. There's always a dragon sat underneath that, be it problems in the company or such and such, that you need to find to actually conquer a problem. So it's never it's never sort of the top layer of the cake, or sort of it's the top of the lake or anything like that. It's always the monster sat underneath that you need to get to actually fully discover how to approach the problem, how to discuss it, and things like that. You always need to look a lot deeper than people come to you with originally. So I guess with my podcast, there's kind of two pillars with it. There is the future of design, and there is students, which is they're the two kind of principles that I've got with this. And I think we've covered the future of design tenfold. But I guess to bring it back to more of the student perspective, I wanted to ask, this is something I ask everyone, but if you were to, is there any piece of advice you'd give to a student which is just about to graduate now, or somebody that's just graduated into industry, be it, any type of creative industry? I guess it's not just sort of UX, UI, it'd be sort of, it might be music production, it might be video production, anything like that.
Yeah. There's many things that I would say to do, but I think one of the biggest things I would say, because and I'll relate this back to this sort of analogy back to graphic design or any sort of design where you are being ultra creative and there's a big art element in it. As you know, when you're using your imagination and you're being creative, openly creative with your imagination, there's no right answer that you can go to right away and go, here it is, I got it, it's coming right out. I'm just like tracing from my imagination. Very few people are tracing from their imagination. They already see it as an image in their head and they're just tracing it, right? It's sort of an evolution that you're trying to understand the space, the problem space. And you're trying to see, well, what am I really working with? What am I really trying to do? And you're the motion of you actually doing the action of you doing something and creating and drawing or whatever it is you're doing is also working with your imagination, and it's pulling things out as you do it. And as you pull it out, it starts building on itself, and it goes, oh, not that, this or this is good, and you start naturally saying yes or no to stuff because it's moving, it's in action, it's in motion, and there's more information. There's a feedback loop that happens that allows you to say yes or no and it go in a certain path. So, with that analogy in mind, think about your life and think about making sure that you're acting right and not just stopping yourself before you act. Because if you were trying to draw something and you stop yourself before you drew it, would you ever draw it? No, you stopped. You're not doing anything. You have a blank piece of paper for your whole life, right? But if you actually want to do something, you actually have to start drawing on it. And yes, you'll have a lot of mistakes. You'll have many pieces of paper that are just crap, right? Like bad sketch, or whatever it is. But each time it's getting better, right? So you're failing, but you're failing forward, and you're getting better and better and better. You're learning about the problem space. So if you apply that same thinking to your life is a blank piece of paper, and you need to act now and not be afraid to fail and have fun with it. Because it's a problem space. Your life is a problem space. It's your journey problem space, and you're just trying to see what works. But make sure you have that feedback loop, right? And a vision and mission will help you create the right drawing, right? Because if you said, well, I'm going to draw something and you had no idea what you're going to draw, there's no vision, right? You have no idea what you're going to draw. You're just drawing. Who knows what it's going to be? It could be scribbles. It could be anything, right? It could be anything, right? But if you know what you're going to draw, then at least you have a destination, and then you can actually start acting on it and identifying that problem space. And then, so make sure you fail big. Don't be afraid to fail. Keep moving, keep acting, tweak things, like that feedback loop. If you fail, understand what went wrong, approach it again with the new information on why you failed, and try again, because it's all about having that grit, and not being afraid to fail is really important. And I think that's what stops everybody from actually doing things that they really want to do in their life. When you graduate, you have all these big dreams, but you never actually, a lot of people don't actually do it because they're afraid for something, or something is stopping them. Maybe it's not their own fear, but they're not acting on things enough so that they can identify and understand that problem space, so that they can say, oh, okay, it wasn't this, it was that, and they can kind of maneuver and have progress. Because when you have progress, that's when you're truly happy. And I think those are some words I think that I would tell my old self and students out there. I guess the last quote that I have. This is one of my personal quotes, and it's about not waiting to be an expert to do something, right? So you don't have to be a master of the universe to get started, but you do have to get started if you want to become one, right? So you have to move, you have to do something, and hopefully it's aligned to what you're trying to do, that vision, if you want to do anything, right? So you just have to get started, whatever it is. The worst thing you do is not do anything at all, because if you don't do anything at all, the world will program you, and it's usually not a really good program. It's usually a crappy program. So that's it.
I guess lastly, do you want to just plug anywhere where people can find you online?
Yes, I have a few things. I don't really post too much, like I said recently, but I do have places you can find me online. uxdig.com. It's an old portfolio, 8 years old. So check back at some point for the new one coming out this summer. A lot more stuff on there. And then there's Twitter. You can find me on a few different Twitter accounts. The more spiritual one is Ultra Deep Blue _ at the end, Ultra Deep Blue _ twitter.com/Ultra Deep Blue _ and then the one that's not as I say spiritual, is not as right-brained, quality focused. It's more career focused, and that is the Level 99 Design, and that's twitter.com/level99design. And those are the main ones. I have an Instagram one, a couple of those, but I don't really use them that much. The other thing I want to mention is that I'm always open to help people, and if you have any question, you can send me a PM on Twitter or something like that. But other than that, I do offer mentoring. It's paid mentoring, but definitely say it's worth it, any get discount. And I'll share that link below, and you can use a code that we'll have there, and you can get a big discount.
Just on a personal note, I'd say that if you are offering personal mentoring and things like that, I'd really tell people to go on and grab it like as ASAP, because I think the work that I've been able to do with you has really been quite profound, and it's allowed me to kind of because as you said, I kind of already came in with some goals, so I wasn't able to take advantage of being able to kind of find them out for myself. But working with yourself, being able to kind of streamline things and put things into buckets as we talked about and things like that has really helped me kind of clear things up, I guess, and things like that. So yeah, I tell people to go to you ASAP, really.
Thank you, appreciate that. That's great.
Hello, it's me again. I don't know why I say that. You know it's me because I'm in the podcast. I don't know. I hope you enjoyed that. I know it kind of wasn't necessarily completely about design at times, but I thought kind of that Jacob would be an excellent person to have on, as he's a very intelligent person and he's got some interesting ideas about sort of the future of the industry and different things like that. But yeah, I suppose if you want to chat with me online, you can find me on Instagram at pirated_material. My website is pirated_material.co.uk. I did have TikTok, but I've stopped doing them because I just can't be bothered, to be honest. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you for listening. I shall see you next time.